Okay, very good. Hi, good to see everyone again. We just have 2 items on the study session agenda tonight. The first is to review the agenda for the regular session meeting. And the second is a discussion about the Fire Station 1 relocation. We do have Mark Costner participating with us tonight. He's currently on mute, and I do believe that his camera is off. But once we get to that item, he will hop in and share information with all of you. Any questions before we get started? All right, on the regular meeting agenda tonight, we have a couple of proclamations. We have, I believe, 3 items of old business, unfinished business. We have the second and final reading of abandonment of a right-of-way in Hammond's Ferry. We have second and final reading of an ordinance that would allow for virtual public meetings to be held during times of a declared state of emergency. This would allow us to virtually hold our meetings if the governor or if the mayor declares a state of emergency. The current ordinance that we have that allows for the virtual meetings expires at the end of the week for us. I will point out, I think I emailed you all last Friday. We do still have a state of emergency for the state of South Carolina. It was extended and I believe is set to expire on June 11th, unless further extended. It is related to COVID-19, of course. The third and last piece of unfinished business is second and final reading for annexation of property on West 5 Notch Road. Any questions about those items that we discussed last week? Okay. So we have some exciting new business tonight. We have a resolution to authorize temporary use of some property that the city owns by Superior Construction Company. They are requesting to utilize about an acre of land that we own just adjacent to the 5th Street Bridge, and they'd like to use it as a laydown yard for the City of Augusta's construction project, which is repairing the 5th Street Bridge and turning it into a pedestrian-only bridge. The resolution that is for your consideration tonight, this is a replica of a previous resolution that we've had with a company who's sought to use our property as a laydown yard. It requires, of course, that they have insurance for insurance coverage for the property, and should anything happen, they're not allowed to clear or grade the property as they use it. They are required to obtain a stormwater management permit and install appropriate erosion control features, I should say. They are required to have a temporary fence to limit any access to the property, and they are required to screen the fence. And then at the conclusion of their use of the land, they are required to clear the property, regrass any of the disturbed land, clean it, and then have a third party perform an independent environmental assessment to ensure appropriate cleanup on the property.
And Rachel, when is all this starting?
It'll be mid-June when they will begin. I believe the bridge is June 9th. And the construction will start shortly thereafter.
Okay. And one more question. The young lady, the president of the Homeowner Association at River Club, and I know she probably emailed everybody about the question she had, and you told her you were going to get back with Augusta. Has those questions been answered for her yet?
No, ma'am, they have not.
Okay. Will they be answered, or
yes,
you anticipate when that's going to happen?
I don't have a date for that yet. It has been difficult to get in contact with the city of Augusta. However, when they gave their recent news release, and I'm verifying the date when their construction will begin, they did have a point of contact who I need to reach out.
Okay, because I'm telling you, several years ago, when we started the pedestrian bridge on 13th, the same concern she has was the big concern of a lot of the citizens, not just that area, but a lot of the citizens in North Augusta.
You're absolutely correct. And so the concerns were, where will people go? Once they come from the Georgia side of the river, there is not currently a destination for anyone to visit. Folks who are on the South Carolina side and want to visit, where will they park? If they want to recreate on the bridge, the city's property currently isn't used for anything, and it's not necessarily a parking lot that we would want to encourage, folks to park on. There are public safety monitoring questions. There was also questions about extension of the greenway down there as well. So these are all items that we will need to work through over the next 18 months. The construction.
But maybe if you, I hate to say, can get with them before that, what did you say, June 9th? Because I'm sure once things get started, it would be hard to go back and change anything.
No,
so, I mean, I know that's a big concern for them. And like I said, not only them, but a lot of people in North Augusta.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Don't we have an old design that we're going to look at, that review again for improvements in that section? There was a very old design.
It was a very old
I saw
plan.
it one time before, but
During one of our March council meetings, if you remember, we reviewed the plans that they provided us, but yes, they were old and we'd not received updated plans. So we would need to obtain that from them as well.
Rachel.
Well, I was referring to a park plan that we had, the city of North Augusta had for that development of that area. I believe Mr. Brooks probably is familiar with it. I think I saw it one time before, but I know it's a low design of some kind.
That was done many years ago, and it's in the master plan for the Greenway system. I don't know the exact page number, but that's where it's located.
Okay.
Rachel, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Is this request on behalf of the city of Augusta or the contractor?
The contractor.
Okay. I'm sure the contractor has money set aside to make in his budget for this. And if he doesn't use the money as designated, he probably would not get it back. So, in my opinion, as that being stated, I think we should charge him a fee to use this piece of property. It's just not the request of the city of Augusta.
Okay, Bob, I heard you, and I think Kevin has the same concerns. I was waiting for Fletcher to, I see he's got his mic on, so I guess he's ready to make that point as well. I think it's a valid point, and I certainly would listen to those in construction business as to what's typically done. I will say, and Rachel, I don't know if you mentioned it or not, but Rachel's reached out to try and get some answers from them. We've not yet received the answers, I believe. Is that correct? We've not? Okay.
That's correct. And I reached out to my contact around 4:00 this afternoon. They didn't answer. I have emailed them and made them aware that we are meeting tonight to discuss this exact item and that they should be prepared for a compensation request. And I've not heard anything back from them. So they're aware.
Okay, good. So then I was, I'm of the opinion, and I'm certainly open to suggestions from others, but I don't see any urgency on our part to address this issue tonight until we get the question of compensation answered, which I think is now we got 4 and probably 5, maybe everybody, interested in it. So if somebody was willing to make a motion tonight to table this resolution until we get answers to that question, I think that, would be a reasonable and appropriate course of action, because I we've all had the same question, and so I think we ought to get that answered. If that's agreeable, Fletcher, I think I see you shaking your head. So if you want to be the one tonight, that would be fine with me.
Can I say something before we get in that meeting to table this? I really don't think we should charge anything. I think this is something that the two cities can work together with. And yes, it might be something people's done in past years, but I think one of the big things with Augusta and North Augusta, we don't seem to sort of go along with each other. And I think this is a door open right here. And especially, even though we've got to be careful about how it's done, but I think that this is something that North Augusta can do a little bit that would help them and not have a fee. I really disagree with that charging. I really do. Thank you.
Well, as a contractor, that's standard operation. I mean, if you're using someone's property, you compensate them. And I've done it. It's always in your budget. I've done it numerous times. It's standard practice. I mean,
well, I know it.
I understand what you're saying about the city of Augusta, but it is the contractor. You're basically.
Well, I know it is the contractor, but like I said, I think this is one way the Lord has opened a door maybe for North Augusta. I mean, because when we interviewed Jim Clifford, one of the questions was how it would relate to Augusta. And one of his things was, work together on projects and do things. And I just think this would be and yes, it might be standard, David, that the contractor paid this, but I just think in my heart, this should, hey, Augusta, we are willing to help a little bit. In that way, we're not having to do anything other than that. Thank you.
Well, my concern is they didn't come to us and ask for our opinion on any of this. They just sent plans to us already designed, and this is the way it's going to be developed. And as Mr. McGee has stated, it's in their budget for a fee, and I don't think we should permit it without a fee.
Well, I'll just go back. As the Bible says, even though they didn't present it to us, turn the other cheek. So, like I said, instead of going back, let's go forward with something positive.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, I'm kind of like you in a sense, but if somebody were to get hurt on that, we could be liable in a lawsuit. I feel like we should be compensated.
Yeah, but that's in their contract. They have insurance.
Okay, excuse me, just a minute. Can you all halt a minute? It gets very confusing and with everybody talking over one another. So if you'll just please give the person a chance to finish their comments. And if you mute yourself, except when you're speaking, I think it makes it easier. I can see Tom has unmuted. He'd like to say something. So if you can just unmute yourself on the screen, I can see it, and then we can have an orderly discussion. Fletcher wants to say something. So if we could just do that, I think that would be beneficial to all of us. So Eric, go ahead. Were you finished?
Well, I mean, I feel like unfortunately we're the landowners, and if something bad enough were to happen, we could be. So I just feel like, I don't care either way really, but I'm just saying that does happen. The other thing I wanted to say, I've seen in the media and other places about this project, just want to reiterate to anybody that might be listening or sees this, because, we're getting asked questions and it's like, we have nothing to do with it. It's all the city of Augusta. They own that bridge. This is their project. In the future, I know we talked about cleaning up and trying to connect to the backside of the River Gulf. Obviously, it's going to take some money that we don't have right now, maybe in the future. But I just want, I've had a lot of residents reach out and like, why are we wasting money on this? And we're like, we're not. This is strictly the city of Augusta's project. And, I can't help but agree with it's a bridge to nowhere because, right now it goes nowhere. So I do understand that. I just wanted to make that point known.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dickert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, and I appreciate the comments, and it sounds like a lot of you all agree with the email I sent out on Friday. You know, as David said, it is customary if you're, as a contractor, if you're using somebody else's property, that you compensate that landowner or business owner in some fashion. And I know Superior, either directly or via through the DOT, is compensating landowners on this on the I-20 project for their access to the river. So this is not shouldn't be a foreign concept to them. And as David suggested, I would imagine they have some funds allocated for this already. As I pointed out in the pictures I sent, you know, there's existing pavement on this parcel that shows some signs of deterioration. To me, and I don't know that, you know, a fee to the city in the form of dollars and cents is as important in my mind as if they could do some kind of repair or improvements to that parking lot, because under construction traffic, that already deteriorated pavement is going to get worse. There's going to be people are going to park there once this project is over, because it's an area that's open for parking and walk that bridge. So whether we like it or not, unless we fence in the parcel, people are going to park there. So, you know, as a site contractor, you know, it's less expensive for them to do parking improvements than it is for the city to go pay someone to do parking improvements. So, you know, I would lean heavily towards their compensation being in the form of doing some kind of parking and pavement improvements to that parcel, which would benefit North Augusta and the citizens of Aiken County. And then also, as I mentioned in there, you know, we just need to, and I'm sure Rick Meyer and staff's already on top of this, but, you know, this is a gateway, as Pat has alluded to, into North Augusta. And that's a backdoor entry into River Club and a front door entry into River North. So, you know, we need to be very, and Chief Thomas too is probably on top of this, very mindful of that. And I think we need to make sure that we've budgeted whenever this bridge opens to put in some of our camera system that the city has. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zeser, do you have something you want to add?
No, not really. I'm dialed in on my phone, so I keep my phone muted. That's why my icon doesn't show muted, but
Okay.
not particularly.
Okay. If you want to say something, raise your hand and we'll be able to see it and ask you.
I mean, for what it's worth, again, is, you know, this request is solely, I believe, on behalf of the contractor. The city of Augusta, I don't think, cares whether or not we grant them this or not, or whether we charge them this or not. So, you know, I don't think a decision on this will in any way affect our relationship with Augusta, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Well, obviously, no matter where it ends up, I think there's some questions that we can get answers to and consider it at the next meeting, and that doesn't in any way preclude approval at the next meeting or modification before then. So, you know, with all the questions that you know you have, and they're legitimate questions, Pat, yours as well. That if we can, you know, put this off for one more meeting, I think in the long run, it'll make us all more comfortable with what the decision would be. So, obviously I can't dictate it, but if there is a motion to table, that's acceptable to me, and we'll certainly entertain it. We have no choice, but we will. So, okay. Okay, thank you. Rachel, go ahead. Sorry. Unmute yourself.
Thank you for that reminder. Our next two items are related. They're public works items. We first have a resolution to authorize the city to enter into a master agreement for professional civil engineering services. This is with Cranston Engineering, and this is for the downtown Greenway connector. The city issued a request for qualifications. We received proposals from, or qualification packets from 8 firms. The packets were scored by an internal review group, and Cranston Engineering was the top scoring group. So we first have this master agreement for professional civil engineering services. And Tom, is this for 5 years?
It's a indefinite delivery contract, so there's not an expiration date to it.
Okay, thank you. I'll introduce the next resolution, and then any questions we can just address with these two items together. The second resolution is, pardon me. Yes, the second resolution allows us to execute our work authorization number 1 with Cranston Engineering Group for phase 1 of the downtown Greenway connector. So I can turn it over to Tom for any additional description, or I think everyone's somewhat familiar with this project. So any questions that you all have related to these two resolutions, we can discuss now.
Hey, Tom, is this the first phase was basically from almost the bridge at Hammond's Ferry up to the alleyway? Is that basically where it still stands?
Yeah, that's correct. From Alta Vista, or the actually West Terrace is what it's called there, up Bluff Avenue, and then up to the alleyway at Bluff Avenue and near the municipal building. Yes.
Thanks, Tom.
Any other comments? Okay, want to continue, Rachel?
Okay. The next item we have is a resolution to allow for expenditure of funds for the restoration of Hammond's Ferry soccer field. Pardon me, here it is, trying to find my papers. If you remember, in 2013, the city decided to use its own property as a laydown yard, the Hammond's Ferry soccer field, for the project of the new water reservoir and expansion of the water treatment facility. We've since finished the project and closed out all the financials and have a balance to restore the field of up to $100,000. Parks Department requested bids for the restoration of the soccer field so that it can again be used, and the qualified low bid came in the amount of $88,650. So this resolution allows for the expenditure of that money so that the land can be restored, and we do believe that there would be enough time so that we could offer soccer in the fall. I will mention that as we looked at restoring this field, we did recognize that there were old light poles that were on the fields that needed to come down. We weren't able to do it as part of the reconstruction amount because it wasn't related to the use of the laydown yard, but we have fantastic staff who work together. The Parks Department and our Public Services Department work together to identify a way for staff to take the old light poles down and light fixtures down safely without creating a mess, endangering any of our employees, and may allow us to resell the old light fixtures for a small profit. So it was a good example of interdepartmental cooperation, and it saved the city about $10,000. The work was to begin this week. I'll let Rick jump in if he has anything he'd like to add.
They took care of most of that today, Rachel. Ryan Metz, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Metz and his crew started this morning and got all the lights off. And as Rachel pointed out, that was significant savings versus using a contractor to take those poles down. And I know one of the questions Fletcher had for me, and I know Kevin did, the difference in the bid prices you see, I think, is reflected in the 4 different bids. Is one of the contractors, the second low bid was from Texas, company owned by Nolan Ryan, of all people, and outstanding company. If we were building a soccer complex and had a big budget, they would be a great company to go with. But, you know, we had a bare bones budget, and Wilson Sports Turf, who is the low bidder, is our existing sports turf contractor who takes care of Riverview Park and our athletic fields with fertilization and spraying. And they had a lot of local knowledge of what we needed done. And you know, I think that's the difference in the, you know, the price that you're looking at. Their mobilization is easy for them versus a company from Texas or Florida.
Hey, Rick, I'm excited about the fields because I'm probably one of the few that's actually played on it as a kid and coached there and refereed there too. So I'm excited to see it come back. Now I know the existing poles used to be at ground level and they've taken them up. Well, does that price include new lighting fixtures, or is that something that'll have to be added in the future?
That's something that'll have to be added in the future.
Were we able to save the existing wiring and stuff and at least have it stopped up where we know we can get back to it, or would it have to all be done from scratch?
That'll have to be done from scratch.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Rick.
And so that means, Rick, will this be more of a practice field or a playing field?
Well, it'll be restored to a level that was actually better than you had before, because another significant savings is public service, street and drains. Tom Zeezer's crew went in and did the sub-grade work for us, and we've got a better grade. We've actually got a crown on the field, and it'll drain much better. So we saved about $25,000 to $30,000 with Tom's crew doing the grading work.
Well, get out of town, Tom. Well, that's good. No, but there's no lights on it. There'll be no lights.
No, but of course, right now during the summer, it's, you know, well, we're not gonna be able to use the field till the fall, but
Yeah.
it'll be just till dark, so probably more of a practice field.
Now, this is just a question. Are we going to have summer soccer or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Soccer, baseball, and softball.
Yippee. Okay.
Well, the other good thing about that field, Rick, even if it doesn't have lights, and you know I've coached and played down there for many years, is it is getting harder to find a practice field, especially during game times. So I think, you know, even during the fall to an extent until, you know, time savings comes up, they'll still be able to practice till about 7 o'clock. So I think that's a huge benefit.
Okay, and I can't help but think back with Pat's enthusiasm about how she loves to hear the crack of the bat. So, good for you, Pat, for having.
Y'all want me to stand up and demonstrate? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, Mr. Brooks, do you have something to say?
I would like to suggest that he would look at some portable lighting. Lexington County uses some portable lighting on their athletic fields, and it will not have the required footage, but it could be enough just for practice areas until you're able to afford better lighting system.
Thank you.
Wonder how you would know that.
I've seen it in person with the grandboys.
Anyone? Oh, Mr. Dickert, I'm sorry.
Yes, Rick, would you mind commenting on the about the field being sprigged versus sodded? I know you and I have talked about it and we're aware of that, but I want to make sure that all the council and the public knows what that is, because I think we may need to also have some communication with the public when that goes to happen, because I don't know if people know that process, and we're going to get phone calls probably asking what the heck are we doing out there when they're doing that. So you mind commenting on that?
Sure, Fletcher. Needless to say, again, with the budget we had, that was one of the things that, and that was the alternate bid that you see in front of you, was sod in the field. And you can see the significant savings that you have by sprigging the field. Sodding is generally done when you need the use of a field ASAP immediately, and you're able to use the field a lot faster. Sprigging, we have the whole summer, basically a 10-week period to grow the field in. And one of the things I've told Fletcher in the history of our career here and a lot of athletic fields, sometimes you get a better surface if you have proper time to just sprig a field than you do just putting sod down. I don't know all the reasons why, but Bob's seen it as well. A lot of the fields out here at Riverview Park were sprigged and not sodded. And you can see a difference. What we need from our public to understand, though, is it will be, a full 10 to 12 weeks before it's ready to play on the fall. So it'll be our job to make sure we keep people off of it while the contractor grows the field in.
I had one question as well, or thought on the funding for this.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, going back to the water treatment expansion project, that there was funds in that project for redoing that field as part of the scope. I guess somehow or another that was removed when MBCon was doing the project, and so now we're having to come up with additional funds. But I do recall that the replacement or repair of that laydown area, that soccer field, was in the scope of work underneath that water treatment expansion project. And I never did hear a story of how that came about, that was no longer in that scope of that work.
Well, we are using from the Utilities Construction Fund balance, that's how we're funding this. But yeah, I think it was a part of MBCon's job to restore the field, and somehow got eliminated from the project.
Okay, thank you. Rick, anything else you want to add?
No, I just think in 10, 12 good weeks of growing season, we'll have a much better field than the field that was used as a laydown area. Bob Brooks remembers we called it Lake Hammond Ferry. Stayed underwater more times than not, but David Cadell's crew again did a great job, and I think Wilson Turf will do a good job for us.
Okay, thank you. Any other council, anybody else? Okay, Rachel, back to you.
Thank you. The last item that we have on the agenda is a resolution for your consideration to establish a small business grant program in response to COVID-19. If you remember, during our last meeting study session, I shared with you a proposal to make small grants to small businesses. We have about $25,000 that's currently designated for a facade improvement grant program. The resolution reauthorizes that money to be used for the small business small grant program. If you remember, initially we set the maximum grant award to be $1,000. That way we could make up to 25, or I should say a minimum of 25 grants. I know some of the feedback during our meeting was that that was a low amount and we should consider a higher amount. I completely understand that, and I know the mayor had supported that as well in a conversation that he and I subsequently had. So we are finalizing the grant requirements and the award amounts, but we brought to you today the resolution to reallocate the funding. I will also mention that, and Mayor, you may want to alliterate on this a little bit more, expand a little bit more. We've reached out to the chamber to see if they have any chamber members that would be interested in partnering with us in this grant program. That was about a week ago. And so we've left it open in case we do have a partner that wants to participate either dollar for dollar or at whatever amount they're able to, and they would participate in the formation of any of the grant guidelines. I don't know if you wanted to expand on that, Mayor.
Well, you said it very well. It was just, an opportunity, I thought, since we were talking about such a relatively small amount of new grants, because basically the amount of money we had available was modest. We talked to Miss Carroll at the chamber about maybe her being able to help, and she's facing tough times. Just like a lot of small businesses, but she provided us names and contacts. So we're trying to get some, see if anybody's willing to contribute and help our small businesses. But Rachel said it well. I should have kept my mouth shut. That's all for me.
Rachel.
Yes, ma'am.
What was the final amount then we'll give? Will it be 1,000 for the 25 or not? I didn't see that.
It's likely to be at least 1,500, if not 2,000. That's what
So that'll cut back on the number we held then.
That's correct. So what I heard from you all, and I did receive your email, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
The majority of what I heard was larger grants to businesses, even if it meant serving fewer businesses, as opposed to smaller grants for more businesses.
I was muted. Sorry, Fletcher.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been racking my brain over this ever since it was presented. And I'm really concerned about it, to be honest. It sounds like a great thing to do, no doubt. I'm just concerned that it's a little, too late. I'm kind of, if we had done this as soon as all the businesses were closing, I'm thinking that the $1,000, $2,000 that we as a local government are able to do would have been more beneficial. I think it's a noble and good thing to do, but I just don't know how much benefit we're going to do for the business community. I know I've discussed this a little bit with Kevin Toole, and I don't know. I struggle with this, and I struggle with the idea: what is the money better spent leaving it in the facade grant program, or is the money better spent reappropriating the dollars to do these small grants? And to be honest, I'm kind of leaning towards, we're over the big hump. Most businesses are starting to open back up, if not already open back up. Most businesses have been able to apply for some government program or another. I tend to lean towards let's leave the money in the facade grant program, because I'm thinking long term, I think improvement to downtown businesses' facades is going to be a better return on investment for not only the city, but for those businesses long term. Because I see this as a short-term stopgap funding, and I think we're past the need for the short-term stopgap funding. I think we're now, maybe I'm wrong and maybe I'm just seeing it differently, but to me, I think most businesses are starting to look a little longer term, not how am I going to pay the paychecks this week, because I think the federal government's for the large part has helped people with that. So my personal opinion is I think we need to keep it in the facade grant program.
Okay, Kevin, you want to?
Yeah, I probably echo a little bit of what Fletcher said. I mean, I'm torn on it as well. I think it's I think it's a nice thought. And my concern maybe is a little bit different than Fletcher's, although I share certainly some of the concerns that he had on it. I don't know that my concerns are enough to have me vote against it at this point. I think I probably generally am leaning towards voting in favor of it, but I think more of my concerns lie in the administration of it. I mean, if we increase it to $2,000, then effectively, we're 12 or so people or 12 or so businesses would qualify for it. If Fletcher's wrong and there really is a big need for these small term grants, I'm concerned on how we make those decisions, how we choose business A versus business B, what the standards are going to be, and who's going to be involved in that, and if we end up that we are past the need for it, and I think we probably are. I think I probably generally agree with Fletcher that a lot of those needs have been taken care of through the EIDL and the PPP programs, and some other things that have been out there for folks that I don't know that a $1,500, $2,000 at this point is going to be all that helpful. But if I'm wrong, I'm certainly open to, if there's a couple of businesses in North Augusta that $2,000 would save them and keep them in business, I by all means would support that. I wouldn't vote against it. But I think I'm concerned with such a limited amount of money on how we, if there is a need for it, how we properly administer that. And I would say I probably share Fletcher's concern a little bit about whether or not, just as a long-term solution, if it's still better in the facade grant. But I think, Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe you said that there's a pretty strong possibility that we'll get some sort of funds from the state to reimburse that later in the year. So, we may be able to do both, which would alleviate that one. But I think that's my concerns are more administratively, I think, than I don't know that it's going to do a whole lot of good at this point, but I'm willing to give it a shot to try it. I'm open to that. I don't have a problem with it. I'm more concerned with how we're going to administer it. And when we only have 12 to give, how we fairly and adequately make those decisions and who's going to be involved in making those decisions.
Thank you, Kevin. I see you raise your hand, Eric. I do want to address one point that you mentioned, Kevin, and I'm glad that you brought it up. So when the CARES Act was passed, there was a designated amount of money that was to go to each of the states, and the states were then to determine, of course, how they spent it. Initially, through Accelerate SC, I believe it was the governance committee. There was a committee of Accelerate SC that represented cities, counties, local government entities, and they recommended to the governor that a piece of the CARES Act money be provided directly to cities and counties. And that was the source of funding that we'd identified and had been told that if we were to provide grants to small businesses, that would be a way that we can recoup those costs. And so then, yes, if we spent $25,000, we could recoup the 25, and we've replenished our facade money. It is unclear whether that will still be an option for us. Reason being, our legislators, when they passed the continuing resolution for the state's budget, which allows them to have a budget for FY21 at essentially the same level as they did for FY20, the legislators did include the requirement that they were to be the ones that will determine how the CARES Act money will be spent, not the governor. They have identified a number of projects already. You may have read articles about it. It includes broadband and a number of other large needs across our entire state. It is unclear whether we will get a direct allocation of funds or not. That's a long answer to your question. What we thought was certain previously is not so certain. And I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you, Rachel, for that clarification. And she's exactly right. The legislature decided it was their function to allocate the money, not the governor's, according to any formula whatsoever. And it's changed more, where we'll be, in essence, asking for the grant for our expenses, along with other municipalities in the state. I think it's, anybody, Eric, you want to speak? Go ahead.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Just something to think about, because like Kevin and Fletcher both, spoke about, I mean, $2,000 is not a whole lot of money, especially if you're a business starting back up. Now, I don't know what good that would do, but maybe in lieu of money, if there has been a business that's hit, we can help them in different ways, such as, if their water's behind or their taxes, maybe we can help them in that way versus a loan. I don't know the implications of that, if that's a good or bad idea, because there are businesses that have been shut down, small businesses. I mean, $2,000 doesn't make a whole lot of payrolls for hardly any business for even a week. So maybe we could help them, and then that way we know, because obviously they would be behind on their water bill or behind on their taxes. Maybe we could help them in that way as opposed to just giving them a cash, money. I don't know, just something I'm thinking about.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. And I have two comments. One, I don't think what you talked about is precluded in terms of their use of the money, but I believe it's not legal for us to make a direct credit to their utility bill. It would have to be a two-step procedure. Tammy, am I right? Or Kelly, am I right in that? I mean, we can't do directly what you're suggesting, but indirectly through the grant program, that's possible. Secondly, does anybody else have any comments that I can answer yours, Eric? Are you satisfied?
Yeah, I mean, it's just something I thought about looking into. I mean, I assume most small businesses that have closed are actually storefronts. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot like myself or David that, we run, companies and we haven't had to shut down and close our doors. So I think it's going to be more of the storefronts that, retail, maybe some smaller restaurants. It's just something I thought we could maybe help do. I don't know the logistics of that. That's more of a Kelly and Cammie thing, as you said, but it's just something, and maybe we need to put it out there and see if there's even a need. Because like I say, $2,000 doesn't go a whole lot. Maybe it will help somebody, but we may say, let's do this, and then find out nobody applies too.
Now, that's my question. If no one applies for it, then we've still got the 25. Does it go back into the facade grant? Or what's
so that would be our decision as to where to put it back if nobody applied for it.
And I guess, do we know if any businesses in North Augusta have shut down? I don't know of any that shut down.
Well, Restmaster did this week, but I mean, its purpose is to help businesses in two ways. One is the utility bills, the cost that you were talking about, since they continued, whether they had revenue receipts or not. Secondly, there's increased costs in many instances associated with doing business now. You can look at your barbers and hair salons and things like that. I mean, they've had to do things that they wouldn't otherwise have had to do. That's a COVID-19 related expense. That's what we're trying to do, is to say, hey, you've had a cost associated with COVID-19. You were not able to function in your business normally, and here's some help for the additional costs that you had to incur. If nobody complies, that's, I think, great that they're able to absorb those costs. I'd be surprised if that was the case. I would just say two things. You know, obviously, it's a facade grant program, and it's been around for what, 2 years or so. We still have $25,000, and if there becomes an interest and we need to, there's no reason we as a council can't refund that program with some amount of money, whatever it is. And to your point, Kevin, you know, we've had discussions amongst ourselves as to how to determine this, and I would think. I mean, I have confidence that with Rachel's leadership and Cammie's involvement and Kelly's, that we would have that staff would have a procedure to do it, you know, equitably and in a timely manner. So I have confidence in them to make those decisions if they have to. If that alleviates your concern, I've seen it. So I would. This is the last item, right, Rachel?
For tonight's regular meeting agenda, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, everybody's had good points and good things to think about, but I would like to go ahead and get to the second item on our study session, if you don't mind. We have about 9 minutes. So Rachel, if you want to go ahead and transition, if you would.
Absolutely. We have, like I mentioned earlier, Mark Costner on the phone. I let him know that he wasn't required to. There he is. All right. Welcome, Mark. The second item on our study session agenda is discussion about our Fire Station 1 relocation. So we've been talking about Fire Station 1 over the past few months. We're making progress. As you know, we've got the site plan for the most part complete. Like anything else, there will be changes that come up throughout the design process and as we get going. We asked Mark to join us here to talk about some of the next steps. We're really at a pivotal point with moving forward for designing of the fire station. As you know, the intention is to replicate Fire Station 3 here on our Marktown Road property for efficiency, for a number of reasons. So we're at a decision point. We just need confirmation from you all that is still the direction that you want to go. I say that because we have a designated amount of money that has been budgeted for the Fire Station 1 relocation from our capital project sales tax 3. Some of the money, as you know, has been spent to date for purchase of properties. The Martintown Road property and the prior property that we purchased that we decided to move away from. In these changes, it has led us to a position where in order to build the Fire Station 1, it will require additional funds. And that is to build the Fire Station 1 as a replica of our Station 3. Of course, we could always take a step back and redesign the fire station, but to achieve the ultimate efficiency in paying of architect work, a variety of other things, it really would be best for us to stick with the Fire Station 3 layout. I'll turn it over to Mark. He's done some market research in terms of the development of fire stations across the CSRA, and he can provide you a little bit of additional information related to that.
Thank you, Rachel. Mayor and council, appreciate you giving the opportunity. And I know we're short on time. But what Rachel was saying is obviously the good news is we completed several steps on Station 1. The preliminary site planning, the initial South Carolina DOT submittal, site survey, topo, geotech, all those things are in good shape and are complete. And so we're at a pivot point here. Or maybe we're not pivoting, but essentially it's time for this update to council and to let you guys know where we're at. We're about to embark upon schematic design drawings with JLA, who's our consultant with the master design agreement that we have in place. And our intentions are to design on this Station 1 site this prototype that we built on Station 3. That's what we've talked about in the past. That is what we plan to do. That is what the chief needs. So we've gotten some commitments from the designers on design time. Now that we've got these other preliminary elements in place, designer says they can turn the rest of these drawings in 5 months. And with our typical bid time and plan review, that means we could be breaking ground construction-wise very early spring. But we wanted to bring this update to council, make sure you guys knew where we were at. Right now, this project budget, the way we developed it is we took our actuals off of our Station 3, and although it's been 2015 since we built that, that was just 1 point of information. So we grabbed those actuals, and then I grabbed actuals off of 2 stations that had been recently bid, awarded, and underway across the river in Augusta. And so based on those and the information we have, since we've only got really, we've got our Station 3 drawings and we have our site. So based on that, we've got a project budget that's just a little bit under 3.8 is where we're going to be on this project. Now, as I've talked to the chief and the mayor and Rachel about it, obviously it's with all our capital projects, we're not going to, just because we set a budget, you know, our objective is to build what we need and no more. So we're not trying to spend all the money, but we're trying to set a reasonable project budget. So what we did is I used actuals from Station 3 that Cammie was so kind to provide to me. We adjusted the site because we have a little different site, and we escalated those costs for 6 years because we're going to build this in 2021. And with that is where we've come up with our 3.8. That kind of sits right on top of what Augusta's paying for their Station 3 and Station 20 with about the same square footage, about 10,000 square feet, 3-bay prototype is what we're looking at.
Well,
So,
Mark,
be leaning.
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. I was just saying I was trying to be short and sweet and
Okay,
make sure
well,
there was time for questions.
Well, couple just some. So did I hear you say it's going to be almost a year before we break ground, Nick? Because this is spring right now.
Miss Pat, so the way the schedule lays out now, we've got the designer needs 5 months to get the drawings complete. We need about a month to review them for permitting, and it's a 2-month process to bid it and to execute a contract. And that's normal hustling. So that means we'll break ground as long as we don't bump into any other uh-ohs early spring of this coming year.
2020. All right, and also and Rachel, I guess this has Miss Powell and Steve and I know we go over this all the time, but have they been contacted or her questions answered from her, you know, when she was at the council 3 months ago? I mean, I just feel like we're dropping the ball. I don't know what it is with these neighbors. I really want, like I said, we've got to move forward. But hold on, there we go. But I just really feel out of consideration and respect, we have got to contact or either, you know, talk with these people. I mean, there's Steve Bryant, the Powell, Zach, it lives right there by it. I just feel like we have left them out. I'm sorry. And I just think, I don't know, maybe no one agrees with me, but I do. There's just something heavy on my heart with this.
Well, I appreciate your concern. We have been in contact with them. We've answered their questions. And if nothing is happening, we've, in my mind, we've given them the opportunity to comment on where we are in our process, not necessarily to be a part of every step of our process, but to communicate with them. We're going to advise them when things happen, when meetings come that we never have done before. We're going to send letters to them. You know, if you haven't heard of anything in 2 weeks, or a month. I would hope you're not thinking that we're not communicating with you. It's just there's nothing to communicate. And nobody can expect, myself included, to be contacted every day or week about this project.
No, they're not.
Tonight to bring us up to date a little bit and to advise us that the budget is going to be something we have to focus on. And are we willing to move forward with the budget that we're looking at? And you know, that's the council. That's about where we are. And until we get that, you know, I don't know what else, I don't know what else we can do.
Well, Mayor, I remember when we changed from voting, it passed the vote there for the observatory Martintown Road. I myself asked that all the way out to the Daniels house, which is on Georgia Avenue, that whole section sort of be included. Of course, they were not. Now will admit, you know, Steve Bryant, the Powells, and I don't, Zach lives right there. They might know a little bit more, but I just, like I said, and yes, if you send out letter, I just think we need to keep the neighborhood informed better than we're doing. I'm sorry. Okay,
and I accept that as your opinion. You used the word better than we're doing, and I'll accept that as an opinion, and keep it in mind as we go forward on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
It's about 7:02, so do you want to recess the study session and come back after council meeting? Do I have a motion to do that? I see Fletcher, you want to make that motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we recess study session and come back after council meeting.
Okay, do I have a second? David? Okay, Kevin, second. All in favor, raise your hand. Or I guess I can do a roll call. Mr. Brooks? Yes, I see. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Dickert, you made the motion. Yes, I assume. Mr. McGee?
Yeah.
Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
And the chair also. So we will recess and until after the council meeting, and I'll ask my IT person and the city clerk to see if you use the same login for that meeting. Would you, Ricky or somebody, do a check and make sure that we can get back to this meeting using the same login code that we did?
I believe we'll have to create a new meeting for that, Mayor.
Okay, well, if you'll email it with.
Well, I feel like if we just, once we enter our regular session meeting and then we formally end it, we can just remain on that particular meeting.
That also works.
We will adopt.
Okay, that's a good solution. Thank you. We'll do that. Okay, so let's have this meeting recessed and let's find our way to the regular council meeting. Thank you.
right.
Okay, good evening. I'd like to call this regular city council meeting to order. And I'd ask you to stand if you're able at your convenience for the invocation and the pledge. Dear God, we're here and tonight gathered in troubled times. We see things happening in parts of our nation that are just so disturbing and almost more than we can bear to watch. We're somewhat conflicted as to how to respond to incidents, what to think. But one thing is clear, if it's at all possible to God, remove the fear that a large percentage of our population feels as they go about their day-to-day activities. I heard it expressed eloquently today, and it's fear in their hearts and pain in our hearts. But we ask you to be with each of us, everyone, as we deal with these uncertain times on a path that we're not certain where it will go. And as always, we know we have city employees that are facing uncertain circumstances every minute, not knowing what the next call will be and what they will face. We ask that you keep them and all city employees safe and provide us wisdom, not only tonight, but in everyday activities. We need it, and we need your blessing. Thank you, God. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the roll call, as you know, has to be done verbally by name. Mr. Brooks, present.
Here, I'm at home.
Ms. Carpenter. Can you unmute yourself and just say present practice? Okay, I read this, I believe she's present and is at home. Mr. Dicker?
I'm present and at work.
Mr. McGee?
Present and home.
Mr. Presnell?
I am here and I'm at home.
Mr. Toole?
Present from home.
And I'm also at home tonight. Thank you, sir. All are present tonight. Council, you provided the regular and study session meeting minutes of our meetings on May 18th of this year. If there are no additions, corrections, they'll stand approved as provided. Noted as approved. I have two proclamations tonight. And of course, I'm disappointed, as I suspect the people who requested them are, that we're not able to present them in person and read them. But the first one is proclamation for National Garden Week. and we've been in contact with the president, Sandy Dirksen, and the treasurer, Jeannie Timerson. And I'd like to read it. Whereas gardeners have a passion for nurturing the beauty and resources of the earth through the planting of seeds, the care of all plants, and the riches of their efforts. And whereas gardeners work to preserve our country's traditional spirit of independence and initiative through innovation and hard work. Whereas gardeners advocate the importance of all creatures sharing our world and their roles in a balanced and productive ecology. And whereas gardening serves as a challenging and productive activity for all citizens, those just learning, as well as those having years of experience. Whereas gardening promotes a healthy lifestyle that lasts a lifetime, helps reduce stress from other areas of our life, and teaches that rewards come from diligent efforts. And whereas the North Augusta Council of Garden Clubs enriches our city by maintaining Billy's Butterfly Garden, providing a scholarship for a North Augusta High School senior, and sponsoring campers for Camp Wildwood. Now, therefore, I, Robert Pettit, do proclaim the week of June 7th to 13th, 2020, as National Garden Week. And I signed that proclamation earlier today. For those of you at home, the beautiful flowers that you were able to see during my reading of the proclamation were provided by the Terrace Garden Club. And we thank them for providing those beautiful flowers. So thank you very much. Moving on now to a proclamation requested by Elizabeth Harkins. And this is the third year that she's requested, and it's the third year that I'm somewhat honored to answer her request because it's very personal to her. And I'll read that whereas scoliosis, the abnormal curvature of the spine, is a condition which affects an estimated 6 to 9 million people in the United States. And whereas primary onset of scoliosis is between the ages of 10 to 15, with females being 5 times more likely to require treatment. Scoliosis can cause pain, reduced respiratory function, and limited mobility in otherwise healthy children. And approximately 1 in 6 children diagnosed with this disease will eventually require active medical treatment and intervention. Whereas screening programs allow for early detection and for treatment opportunities which may alleviate the worst effects of the condition, which by the way has no known cause or cure. And whereas raising public awareness of scoliosis is vital, helping children, parents, and healthcare providers understand, diagnose, and treat this disease and reduce the pain and suffering of those it affects. And I'm happy to proclaim June 2020 as Scoliosis Early Detection Awareness Month. And I signed this proclamation earlier today for Ms. Harkins. Both, as I read the Garden Club proclamation, it's a proclamation that is about life, not just about gardening. And I appreciate the efforts that they do collectively to make our city more attractive. Thank them. Okay, moving on to item number 7. This is ordinance number 2020-11, abandoning a road right-of-way shown on a plat for Hammond's Ferry, section A4, dated December 3rd, 2019, in the city of North Augusta. This ordinance is up for its second and final reading. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance?
So moved.
I heard Mr. Presnell. Ms. Carpenter, will you second?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments, Ms. Lamar, from citizens on this specific item?
No, sir, no citizen comment.
Okay, thank you. Council, any comments? Okay, hearing none. I'll call for a vote. This is the second and final reading on ordinance 2020-11. Mr. Brooks,
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Dickert,
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
I lost audio. We still on the same item?
Yes, 2020-11, the resolution on abandoning a right-of-way in Hammond's Ferry.
Yes.
Mr. Presnell,
Yes.
Mr. Toole,
Yes.
and the chair also votes yes, so the resolution passes unanimously 7-0 on second and final reading. Moving on to item number 8. It's changed to our city code. It's ordinance number 2020-14, an ordinance to allow a procedure for the city council, planning commission, board of appeals, and all agencies of the city that conduct public meetings to conduct such public meetings electronically during times of a declared state of emergency. This is the second and final reading. Do I have a motion to approve the ordinance?
So moved.
Ms. Carpenter, do I have a second? Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Okay. Were there any comments from citizens, Ms. Lamar?
No, sir, no comment.
Thank you. Council? Hearing or seeing no request for, well, I'll call ask the question. It's 2020-14. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Dicker?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
The chair also votes yes. Ordinance 2020-14 passes unanimously, a vote of 7-0. Moving on to item number 9, which is the second and final reading of ordinance number 2020-15, titled to change the corporate limits of the city of North Augusta by annexing plus or minus 1.95 acres of property located at 207 West 5 Notch Road and owned by the Hammonds at 5 Notch LLC. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance on final reading?
So moved.
Mr. Brooks, do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
I think I heard Mr. Presnell first. Were there any comments from citizens, Ms. Lamar?
No, sir, no comment.
Thank you. Council? Hearing none, I will call the question. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Dickert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
The chair also votes yes. Ordinance number 2020-15 passes unanimously by a vote of 7-0. Thank you. Moving on to item number 10. This is resolution number 2020-18, authorizing the temporary use by Superior Construction Company of plus or minus 1.0 acres of land owned by the city of North Augusta for a construction laydown and staging yard adjacent to the 5th Street Bridge. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Mr. Dicker, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Tool, thank you. Ms. Lamar, were there any comments from citizens on this?
No citizen comments on this.
Okay, thank you. Council comments? Mr. Dicker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Based on our discussions in study session and based on the email I sent out on Friday, I would like to propose or make the motion that we table this resolution.
The chair will second. The motion has been made and seconded to put item number 10, resolution number 2020-18 on the table. This motion is non-debatable. We'll move right to the vote. Mr. Brooks,
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Dicker,
Yes.
Mr. McGee. Mr. McGee?
He appears to have.
Yeah, I think he has technical difficulties there.
Okay, I'll continue. Perhaps he can reconnect. Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Mr. Tool?
Yes.
Mr. McGee, can you hear us? You're muted if you're trying to speak to us.
He is muted.
Yeah, I see that. Kelly, can you help us here on what the proper procedure would be? It just.
Well, I mean, due to the fact that it's immaterial as to the outcome, and you know, obviously we've never run it. I think it's almost the same as if someone leaving a meeting. And certainly if you were in the midst of a 3-3 vote, you would need to wait. I mean, you may decide you want to wait 4 or 5 minutes, give him an opportunity to get back, because you're going on to another matter that you're going to need a vote on also. I think I see the room there.
I'm back.
Okay, great. Okay, did you want to finish, Kelly, or does it moot now that he's returned?
What I'm saying is that I think you could do either way in this situation, but certainly glad to have Councilman McGee back and he can vote. We don't have a question.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McGee, we're voting on item number 2020-8, resolution to table that resolution. Are you, do you vote yes to table resolution 2020-18?
David, they're talking to you. David, they're asking you to.
I'm here. Yes.
Okay, you voted yes, and the chair also voted yes. So the motion is tabled.
Jacket's on the door. I was trying to shut the door. You can see.
Okay. That's fine. I would have expected that I would have been in the position of not being able to get visible. So I think we're all struggling, and since this, I think by our resolution is the last virtual meeting we'll have, the next meeting will be back in person. Is that right, Ms. Moody? Yeah. Okay. So the vote was 7-0 to table 2020-18. Moving on now under new business again, item number 11. It's resolution number 2020-19. authorizing the city of North Augusta to enter into a master agreement for professional civil engineering services with Cranston Engineering Group, PC, for the downtown Greenway connector. The chair moves to approve this resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Dickert, thank you. Ms. Lamar, were there any comments from residents on this item?
No comment, sir.
Okay, thank you. Council, any comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll proceed with the question.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a quick comment.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
I just would like to say that I'm glad to see that we have a local design team involved in this. And I know that one of their consultants is one of the ones involved in the master planning for the downtown Greenway connector. So I think it's a really great team that the city has that's going to be doing this design. So I'm glad to see who we have.
Thank you. I think it's beneficial as well to have a local team, that, and particularly one that we know has done a lot of work for the city. Any other comments, council? Okay, I'll call the question. Resolution number 2020-19. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Dickert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Got it, liked it. Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
The chair also votes yes. Resolution 2020-19 passes unanimously, a vote of 7-0. Thank you. Moving on to item number 12 under new business, resolution number 2020-20, authorizing the city of North Augusta to execute work authorization number 1 with Cranston Engineering Group, PC, for phase 1 of the downtown Greenway connector. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution? Mr. Brooks, second. Was that Mr. Toole, Mr. Presnell, I mean? Eric?
Yes, sir. I'll second.
Okay.
Mayor, who was the first to make that the first motion, please?
On this one, I had Mr. Brooks. On item number 11, I was. Okay. As we discussed in study session, Rachel, do you want to talk about the scope? I see Tom is, I think, on, although I can't tell for sure. Either one of you just want to talk about the scope of work that we're talking about here?
Sure. And yes, Tom is on. It looks like he's muted. Let me get to that portion. The scope of work for this phase 1 includes, pardon me.
Yep. Tom, you want him to continue?
I can.
Okay.
Again, phase 1 is generally shown graphically in towards the end of attachment 12B. It's from the original concept plan, but it's generally to design a side path connector along beginning at the intersection of Bluff and Alta Vista, and continue up Bluff Avenue towards West Avenue, and across West Avenue to the end of the alleyway between West and Georgia Avenue on Bluff Avenue. The improvements it's generally a streetscape project. It will include curb and gutter on both sides of the road, and some storm drainage improvements to underground the current open ditches that are along a portion of Bluff Avenue. We're going to be looking at options to incorporate street trees along the corridor to provide some shade on the side path, as well as likely decorative street lighting, depending on what we do with some of the overhead power lines. And of course, road resurfacing to complete the project.
Thank you. That was good overview of what we're talking about. That stretch of Bluff Avenue is certainly in need of improvement. So, Ms. Lamar, were there any comments from citizens on this item?
No, sir, no comment.
Council, any comments? Mr. Dickert, are you waiting to vote or?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I was just going to say, you kind of touched on it and Tom did as well. This is much more than just a greenway project. It's a streetscape project and a much needed project in dealing with those open ditches, which are unsafe and unsightly through there, being that has kind of become a major entry point into our riverfront development. So I think this is very much a win-win in a lot of ways, both with helping get our downtown greenway getting the greenway into our downtown, and then as well as improving that streetscape, which will only benefit everybody, but also benefit those homeowners down through there. I do want to make one comment. I believe in conversations with staff, and I don't know if staff want to chime in on this. I believe part of the scope of services and timelines that were laid out by the designers included some public presentations and public comment periods. So I would imagine staff will advise us and advise the public as to when those are, but want to make sure that the residents through there know that there will be opportunities for them to weigh in and share their thoughts and concerns.
Great point. I appreciate that. And I think we're moving more and more to that modus operandi in how we do things, is to make sure that we give the public an opportunity to contribute to the overall project and design. And I think that there's no question that that's important. And I know Ms. Carpenter obviously is very, very interested in that. And I take it seriously, as does staff. So we'll make sure we do that and do it effectively. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none. Moving on to call the question.
No, I'm good, dude. I'll get some.
Resolution number 2020-20. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Dickert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
And the chair also votes yes. Resolution 2020-20 passes unanimously, a vote of 7-0. Thank you. Moving on to item number 13 under new business, resolution number 2020-21. This is restoration of Hammond's Ferry soccer field. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Mr. Toole, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Brooks?
I'll second that.
Yeah, I've got the second from Mr. Brooks. I was looking to see, were there any, I guess first, were there any comments from citizens?
No, sir, there are no citizens' comments.
Okay. This is in some way related to the upgrade of our water plant and recovering from the laydown yard that was that this field was used for. Is Ms. Moody, is there anything you want to add in terms of explaining the project or the rest of what we're talking about?
I certainly can. Yes, we have this item as a result of using this property back in 2013 as a laydown yard for a construction project at the water treatment facility. We went out for bids to restore the soccer field. The base bid, the low bid came in at $88,650, and we will be able to restore this field with the goal of hosting fall soccer on the field.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, they're going to sprig it. So I think I heard it takes 10 to 12 weeks for the sprigging for the field basically to be in a playable condition. Council, any comments? Thank you, Ms. Moody. Okay. I'll call the question. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Dickert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Presnell?
Yes.
Yes.
And the chair also votes yes. So resolution number 20-21 passes unanimously, vote of 7-0. Thank you. Moving on, item number 14, under economic development, it's resolution 2020-22. And the title is a resolution to establish the small business grant program in response to COVID-19. The chair moves to approve this resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who is that? Mr. Presnell? Did you? Okay, thank you. Ms. Moody, you want to just do a quick summary of the money allocated and what the guidelines and what we're talking about here for anybody that's, participating by viewing?
Certainly. This resolution is to reallocate money that is currently set aside for the facade improvement grant program. We have brought this to you so that money can be reallocated to provide grants to small businesses in North Augusta to recover expenses that they've had directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. It's a $25,000 total amount to be awarded, with grants likely to be $1,500 to $2,000 a piece to the small businesses. The target grant recipient would be a business who was required to close for a period of time by the governor of the state. It does also include restaurants who were allowed to provide takeout, but throughout the pandemic have not been able to function at their maximum capacity.
Thank you.
Yes.
Were there any comments from citizens, Ms. Lamar?
No, sir, no comments on this resolution.
Council, any comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, as I've voiced some concerns in study session about this, I'm not going to support this tonight. And it's not that I don't support small business. As I mentioned in the study session, I feel like that the amount that we're able to do isn't significant enough to warrant pulling it from the facade grant program. I feel like in the long run, now that most businesses have gotten over the hurdle or have applied for government programs, the $1,000 or $2,000 that we would be able to do for businesses, I think would be a better return on investment, not only for the businesses, but for the community, that it stays in the facade improvement, facade grant program to improve the businesses' storefronts downtown, which will help them longer term. So for those reasons, again, I'm not opposed to small businesses. I'm all for helping them. I just feel like if we had done this maybe 2 months ago, 100% behind it, because at that point we were everybody was looking for stopgap measures to help them just meet the needs of the next few days or week. But most are kind of beyond that. So I feel like, as I've said, I think it's better used in its current location.
Thank you. Anyone else?
And this might be for Kelly. Kelly, small businesses that applied for the government payments, would this affect them? I know there's so many stipulations on that money. Would this affect them anyway if they've got the $1,500 to $2,000?
And that's a question I cannot answer. I get emails every day about seminars that they're holding to try to explain that program. Mm-hmm. And there's no way that I can answer that question.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah. And I agree with pretty much everything Fletcher said, but I do think I'm going to support it. My reasoning being is, as Fletcher rightly points out, it's only $25,000. I don't know that it necessarily makes a dent in anything. But on the flip side of that, it's only $25,000. And if a business wants to try to take advantage of it and it provides some support and help to them, I don't know that I would necessarily want to vote against providing that opportunity for the business to take advantage of it. So, I definitely share Fletcher's concerns on it. I just don't know that with the minimal amount that it is, let offer to them if they can use it and it can help them. I say let's give it a shot.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
President.
Yeah, I was just going to kind of, and I understand, and I know we had a discussion on this in a study session, but I feel like we should put it out there if it helps a business. I mean, hopefully we'll put it out there and nobody applies. Hopefully most of our businesses have been able to weather this. But I do say that we put it out there. If we don't get any takers, then fine, we put it back into facade grant. That's kind of my hope, is that most of our businesses were able to weather this storm pretty good. So I'm going to support it as well.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. There's no question. I'm supporting it. I think there's a number of businesses in town. I've visited several of them, and I can see that they've had to expend money to deal with the impact of COVID-19 in their business, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a hair salon, even the big box stores have done things with sneeze guards and stuff like that. We've done that as well. And while I agree that $25,000 total, $15,000, $2,000, say $2,000 max to somebody sounds insignificant. That's not for me to say to somebody that needs it that it's insignificant. If it's a benefit, that's fine. As we mentioned, we're looking at opportunities to increase the amount of money that we'll have available for making these grants. It would be my hope that we could make them larger and not limited to $2,000 that we're talking about max. I think staff, Ms. Moody, did a good job of coming up with the $25,000 from the facade grant program as a source for the money. When we try and do something, everyone's first question is, where's the money going to come from? I don't have any problem with raising the amount if we find another source of money and you weren't willing to designate it. We can continue to look for opportunities. As you know, we're thinking about a budget adjustment because we've been impacted as well. So for that reason, I think that I can't think of a reason not to do it. So that's my comments. Mr. Brooks, did you have a comment you wanted to make?
No, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Following the question on resolution number 2020-22. Vote on this resolution. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter? Mr. Digger?
Yes. Yes.
No.
Okay, Mr. Digger? No. Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Fresnel?
Yes.
Mr. Toole?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So resolution number 2022 passes by a vote of 6-1. Thank you all. That concludes the formal part of the agenda. Ms. Moody, do you have some administrative reports that you'd like to make tonight?
Just a couple reports related to our park facilities. This past Saturday, both of our splash pads reopened and they were well attended, and it was a celebration to open not only them, but our playgrounds again. And today our outdoor basketball courts were reopened.
And thank you. That's good. Is there a schedule for the activity center?
Yes, they are on more limited hours. I do believe Rick is still on and he can certainly jump in. Monday through Friday is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Rick, can you help me out with the rest?
Yes, Saturday is 7 to 1 p.m. and we are going to be closed on Sundays for now.
That's
Okay.
right. Thank you. And yes, today was the first day of the, and by the time I saw Rick at 9 this morning, he said they'd already had folks coming through excited to be back.
I didn't mean to catch you off guard, but I thought that it opened today, and I just wanted to hopefully people can be aware that it's open. Do you have anything else?
Yes.
Now, are the indoor basketball courts open, Rick?
No, Pat, we do not
Okay.
have permission yet from the governor to open.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Anything else? Okay, wait a minute. Let me just see if Rachel's finished first. Eric, are you finished, Miss Moody? Okay, go ahead, Eric.
I just wanted to say, I think it's great that we were able to open those facilities. I came back through Riverview Park on the way to the house earlier, and there was probably, 10 children playing in it. It was a great sight to see. So I'm sure a lot of these parents with young kids are grateful that this is open back up.
Yeah, I agree. I have a picture that Bill Bankston was there and took a number of pictures of the splash pad, and he sent me a series of them. And I suspect one will be in the paper this week. But I've asked Miss Lamar to buy it, and then we're going to be able to publicize it and use it publicly. Kids love it. I agree. Anyone else have anything? Well, I just have one thing. The amphitheater looks great. I was down there yesterday for lunch at one of the restaurants, and I wanted to see what it looked like now with it essentially being open. And one of my neighbors is there, and they have their perfect spot on the amphitheater where they sit with their lunch and look at the river and enjoy the atmosphere. And that's what we want. I want to thank Rick, who headed up that project, to get it done, because that is really going to be an asset in that area as we get an opportunity to get back into more normal operations and activities and have festivals or bands or something. You know, it's a big plus for the city, and I appreciate that. Any other comments from council at this time? We kind of jumped a little bit. We've taken advantage of administrative reports, Rachel's time to talk. Anyone else have anything? We'll get to citizen comments here next. I apologize for skipping on the agenda. I hope I don't get in trouble for that. Ms. Moody, are there any comments from citizens tonight? I mean, Ms. Lamar, I'm sorry. I'm looking at you, called the wrong name.
Yes, sir. We do have one comment from citizen that was submitted by email to me. Dear Mrs. Lamar, I am submitting the following comment and question to be read at the City Council meeting of June 1st, 2020. At the last study or council meeting, the mayor indicated that he attempted to contact the principal developer, Chris Shane of Riverside Village, and had not been able to reach him regarding his delinquent tax payment. Can you provide the citizens of our city with an update on your correspondence with him and his plans to pay the outstanding property tax bill of approximately $820,000 with additional penalties of about $120,000? Thank you in advance for providing this opportunity. Sincerely, Fred Ilardi.
Thank you. I try not to answer citizen comments during these meetings because I don't want to provide information that's factually incorrect. In this instance, any conversations I have with Mr. Shane or any other individual, Mr. Ilardi, are confidential and private, and I don't provide the contents of them publicly. And in this instance, I see no reason or benefit to provide any comments related to any discussions I have with anybody on any topic. So in answer to Mr. Ilardi's question, I will not provide that information. I'll continue to keep it confidential. Mr. Shane wants to make a comment. That's certainly his prerogative, but I will not do it. Any additional council comments? Okay. I thank you all. Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Can you turn us back on, please?
All right, go for it.
Okay. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you all for reconvening. Just as a quick refresher, we were discussing the Fire Station 1 relocation, and we were discussing that our plans were to utilize the layout for Fire Station 3 and replicate it on 311 West Martintown Road for Fire Station 1. And we understand the amount that we spent on Fire Station 3, and Mark had done some cost estimates for us, and the cost to replicate that building on the Martintown Road property exceeds our current budget. And so I wanted to delve a little bit more into what that means for us. And so Mark was able to provide the methodology for calculating his cost estimates, and he was able to provide the project timeline for you all. And I do have those notes with me in case there's any additional questions about that. But we, as you know, the Fire Station 1 is funded out of Capital Project Sales Tax 3. And we do have 2.3 million available on hand in CPST 3 for Fire Station 1. And you may have to refresh my memory on what the original amount was budgeted for in CPST 3. But as you know, we've made investments in land purchases that have tied up some of those funds. Once we are able to sell the Flight and Seven Gables properties, we will be able to take those proceeds and replenish CPST 3. We are looking at upwards of $1 million to $1.5 million that we will need additional in order to build Fire Station 3 on our Martintown. Looked into CPST 3, 1 through 3, essentially those varying funds, and we are able to identify there is interest accrued across a couple of those accounts that we can have you all as council allocate towards this project. We have other projects in CPST 1, 2, and 3 that we can have council reprioritize and reallocate funding from another project to this fire station. We've talked about the fire station being a priority and moving forward at all cost. So we're really at a point where if we're comfortable with in the future reallocating some, or reprioritizing, I should say, some of the CPST money in 1, 2, or 3, we can continue down the path of replicating our Fire Station 3 on our West Martintown Road location. JLA is sitting on go. They're ready to go. They just want to make sure that that's the direction that we still want to head. If we are not willing to reprioritize funding and we don't think that it's appropriate to do so, we would need to take a look at the budget that we have available in CPST 3 currently and evaluate what we can build with that funding. We have, if we were to reallocate funding from another project to be used on the fire station, once the Flight and Seven Gables properties are sold, through the resolution, we can require that those funds replenish that other project so that at some date in the future, if we are to embark upon that particular project, it will have had some money returned to it.
Okay. Excellent summary. You know, when we've looked at this, when CPST 3 was approved by the voters, that was what, 6-7 years ago. And at that time, projects were included based on cost at the time of the CPST 3 referendum with no consideration of timing. And so we've obviously had escalation in costs over that period of time. So really the question is, and I'll say it in a different way, is we do not want to have the amphitheater, the fire station bid come in and have the same question: why did we design a $3.8 million station when we only have $2.3 million? So that's the question. I think, if I'm right, Rachel, that really we're faced with. We've got some assets tied up, like Rachel indicated, and we need to look at the reprioritization. There's no question. I don't want to speak for Chief Thomas, but he wants the 3 bays. He needs them. I'm anxious to get it there. As it is, we're talking a completion date in 2022. Am I right? March or something, if I remember, on the normal routine schedule. That's almost like forever in my mind. So that's kind of what I guess maybe if we've got to get a consensus in the very near future as to how to proceed. And Rachel, you got your mic on. Go ahead and jump in and say what I should be saying in a better way.
No, I'd like to piggyback on some of the things that you're saying. You're absolutely correct. We're at a point now where to build the facility that we've been tasked to build, we know that additional funds would be needed. And so we wanted to come to you all and get the consensus that, yes, that is still our intention, as opposed to continuing to design the project, which Mark said would be another 5 months just in design phase, and then to go out to bid and to only have it come in at a number that far, far exceeds what we know that we can pay for. We don't want to lose any further time by delaying and hoping that the cost per square foot is low and can fit within the budget that we have. It's estimated to be a full project time of 20 to 23 months, depending on how optimistic we are about the ability to push the project forward. We're really at a pivotal point now where if we head down the path of building and replicating Fire Station 3 on Martintown Road, we're full speed ahead from here. If that's not something that we're interested in anymore, then we go back to the drawing table, figuratively and literally.
Now, I am just thoroughly confused here. So, Rachel, what you were just saying, when you say we need to go back to the drawing board, are you saying not build it on Martintown Road now?
No, ma'am. I'm saying Martintown Road is the property that we have, and 2.3 million is the money that we have available right now.
Right.
We're looking at anywhere between $3.5 to $4 million to build the building that we set out to build. So
and maybe I'm just goofy. What's happened here? I guess I had in my mind this thing would be started within just a matter of months, and now we're talking 2022, and we're short that much money. What's happened?
We've had a number of things happen, as we've mentioned tonight. This project was put together during CPST 3, so the amount that was estimated, those numbers are at least 7 years old, maybe closer to 10. We've had cost escalation since then that was not built in to the funding allocation. Between Flight, Seven Gables, and the Martintown Road property, we've spent a significant amount of money.
Yes, we have.
We're currently...
That was foolish.
We have a lot of money currently tied up in property. If we didn't have the properties, the assets on hand, we would have had more of the cash in the bank to build this.
Well,
So-
and not disgrading here, but to me, that's why we should have stood and built that property on Seven Gable like we had originally talked about, versus going out and spending what, $275,000 extra dollars. And now here we are stuck and can't do a blasted thing. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, I'm plumb embarrassed to say I'm on city council
Miss Pat,
because of this.
I
I'm sorry. I'm just a little angry tonight about some of this. I just, why don't we go ahead and put the property up for sale? And are we going to sell the Flight property as well as the Seven Gables then? Is that part of that deal, that we'll sell the whole thing? And I can't imagine right now anybody's going to buy it, but that would bring in a little bit of money. I'm just sorry. This is, I just think, ridiculous.
Okay, let me, and I'll give you, I see David and then Eric. I think it's fair to make the comment back, Pat, is that we would be $270,000 closer. But the Flight property and the Seven Gables money is the sunk money at this point. So if we had done the building, put the somewhere's over $1.5 million and a quarter, it's short. So I appreciate your viewpoint, but we're here, so we're trying to solve it. Okay, David, you were first.
I was just going to say that, regardless of purchasing another property, we've lost countless time. I mean, debating the location and the feasibility of this property and this fire station. That's cost us more money than the $275,000 we purchased the other land for, by far. And we are in a situation that we have something that we personally, I think that I've committed to that we have to complete at a very quick pace if we can. I'm upset that it's going to take so long, but we allowed ourselves to follow a process to work with the community better, and it has backfired in many ways. I've always wanted it to go on the Flight and Seven Gables. I agreed to a compromise to come up with another property, knowing that we would actually end up having to spend more money initially. Hopefully the market will change for us and we'll be able to recoup some funds, but that's where we are. We try to do what some people in the community wanted us to try to do, to go beyond what calculations and studies and concerns we had already studied to make a determination of where it should go. And we went through that process. It was a very expensive process in time, mostly. And with time, I know in construction, time is a lot of money. Inflation, everything else has gone on during this period of time. And am I correct? This has been 7 years since it first came on the table, the purchase of the Flight and Seven Gables property. And at the time, we probably could have had the thing started in 18 months. But we put the brakes on this project in hopes to gain more community support in the thought in the movement on this. And we are here. Be upset if we want to, but we're here, and we need to move forward with this project as quickly as we possibly can. The longer we debate it, the longer it goes, the more expensive it's going to be. We did this to ourselves in fact. And like I said, I agreed to change my vote. And I thought that we would make something that would be more feasible for the people. And that's where we are. I hate that it's cost us more, but I have to say that I saw the writing on the wall a long time ago as I saw the time tick and the more debate, the more discussion as we kept putting it on the table. The price and cost continues to go up. So if we do this anymore, it's just going to cost us even more. So, we are here. So that's all.
Thank you. Eric?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm going to kind of agree with David. The other thing too, when this capital sales tax 3 was passed, that was what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, somewhere in there. Inflation has really taken over, Miss Pat. I used to could hire guys for $8 an hour to learn a trade. Now I'm having to pay them 12, and it's the same across all the construction industries. And so the only problem we have is now labor costs are so high, material costs are way higher. This is something that was bid 5-6 years ago, and yeah, it's off about $1 million now, or $1.5 million. Some of it is tied up in the original land purchase. And, like David did say, this is a process, and I'm sorry to say it this way, this has been kicked down the road since 2015. And here we are, we're still debating, starting over, it is not an option. We lose too much. We have to figure out a way to get the funds and go. Otherwise, we're going to keep debating this until it's dead. I mean, this has been something that's been debated for over 2 years. And, it's time to make a decision. I feel like if we try to fit it in the budget we've got, we're going to end up with one of two things. One, we're going to end up with a fire station that's not what the chief needs. Also, we're going to end up spending all that money to have something that we don't have the capacity to grow in. Also, all the design fees to redesign something, delay, construction costs are going to continue to go up. So I feel like, it's a no-win situation. We are where we are. If we have to reallocate funds and then put some back when we sell the Flight and Seven Gables property, that's what we need to do. But I think, we stay the course exactly where we are now.
Okay, thank you. Fletcher?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to commend you, Mr. Mayor, and staff for bringing this to us on the front end, as you suggested. Let's deal with the budget on the front end. To summarize this, we're talking about $1.5 million. So it is, do we find $1.5 million so that we can build, in essence, the same similar type station we have on Belvedere Clearwater Road, or do we not? And if we don't, what do we find? I've been texting Mark since we've been back in this, asking him how much is a 2-bay going to save us? Not that I'm advocating for that, but if we reduced a bay off of this station, how much does he think we'll save? And he thinks it's maybe $400K at the top, at the high side. So, $350,000 to $400,000 we may save if we change this from a 3-bay to a 2-bay. We all know, Chief has indicated, staff has indicated, we need a 3-bay that provides us what we need. So even if we change to a 2-bay, we're still talking $1 million that we've got to find. Obviously, we have the land, the Flight 7 Gables parcels. As much as I have been an advocate for putting a for sale sign up, and still am, now's not the time to do it. So, unfortunately, we're going to need to probably hold that until we've kind of cleared through a little bit more, maybe through the end of this year. Maybe we reassess it at the end of this year or next year. We need to just make sure there's not as much market uncertainty to ensure that we maximize our citizens' value on that land. But we for sure have got to put that up for sale. And maybe we can work. I have some ideas and thoughts on how I think it will be most valued. And I'd love to talk to you, Mr. Mayor, and Rachel and our incoming city administrator about it, what things we might can do to maximize our value there. But I think the option is we just need to allocate more money. As much as I'm an advocate for staying in budget, I think we need to adjust the budget. This is too important of a project. I don't see us getting the project built anywhere near what we need if we say we're going to stick to the budget, especially based on Mark indicating that we're still going to be a little over $1 million short if we've got a bay off. So I'm an advocate for staying the course, an advocate for I know Rachel and I have had some conversations earlier today about where we can pull some funding from out of sales tax 3, out of other projects. I think we need to do those things. And I think we're probably going to have to loan ourselves some money, so to speak, on the property. And when we sell the property, we kind of pay ourselves back into this fund and back into the sales tax program. Cammie and Kelly will have to figure out how we do all that and make sure we're staying in our bounds. But I think we stay the course, Mr. Mayor and Council, and we reappropriate funds in the future, or reallocate, funds in the future from other projects.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I concur with Mr. Dickert. We have gone this far. We have made commitments to public safety over the years, most recently with this new Station 1. We need just to stay the course and reallocate some funding for it. If we cannot go backwards. We got to move forward. 2 years is unfortunately a long time, and I hope that there's some way that the construction process can be sped up so this station will come online before 2022. So I think we need to stay the course, reallocate funds for it with a budget of no more than $4 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. That was well put. Pat, are you?
Yes, one more thing. No, I am not against moving forward. I say we please, because like you said, we have obligated ourselves not only to the police and fire department, but also the citizens of North Augusta. And so I say move forward. We got to find the money somewhere. My question is, and maybe it's just me, did we know we were this much short before tonight? Have I missed something, or is this, I just thought in my head we were on the word go. And then all of a sudden tonight we've got $1.5 million short. Now, and I'm going to go back to Mr. Steve Bryan. He said there were ways that he could cut prices too for us. And one thing, the bay doors, I love what he had put out about the bay doors. It looked more like a residential area than the doors we have out on Clearwater Road. So I don't know if those doors would be cheaper that he had, showed us at that meeting that night, but my main question tonight is this, have I missed something totally that we're $1.5 million short? And like I said, no, we've got to find the money. We've got to go. I'm with everybody else. We have got to go with this project, but it's just a little shocking that all of a sudden we're at a standstill here and can't move till we find the money.
Well, I don't know the answer to your question specifically. We're at a point now where we've looked at the conceptual design and looked at the funds, and we had a meeting some time ago, 3 or 4 weeks, I forget, where Mark was involved and Rachel was there. I was there. I think Chief, you were there as well, where we sat down and looked at the schedule and the funding. I mean, and maybe how did we get here where we are? I think we've alluded to that tonight. We got money tied up that would have been tied up in Seven Gables and Flythe property. We spent more money then to buy the current property on Martintown Road. Has been indicated, costs have escalated, and we're basically trying to build a station on an estimate that's 6 or 7 years old. So, I don't know how we got here. I don't know when I became aware of it, when, Cammie didn't come in and hand a resignation to me and say, I'm out of here. You don't have enough money to do what you're going to do. And she's told me that's when I know things are bad, is when she leaves. So, but we're trying to resolve the issue. I understand the frustration. I understand the time frustration, the timeline frustration. I've heard from most of you. Kevin, I haven't given you an opportunity to speak yet. If you'd like to chime in, I'll shut up.
Well, I mean, I don't know what else to add. Going last, everybody steals all the good ideas and stuff, but we have no choice but to go forward. I mean, going backwards is not going to do anything but cost us more money. I mean, so that's not even an option as far as I'm concerned. I think there's lots of reasons that we got to the place that we are. Some were unavoidable. Some probably in hindsight were avoidable, but none of that matters. We're where we are, and best option we can do is to move forward. If there are ways to cut some costs, I just don't know that they're going to be significant based on what we're dealing with. But certainly I'm hoping and would expect that staff and JLA will find opportunities to do so. But at the end of the day, as has been said by just about everybody that's spoken, we've got an obligation to the citizens of North Augusta and to our public safety officers to get that thing built. And anything other than moving forward is a disservice to all of those stakeholders. So, I'm not sure what else to say. I'm disappointed to hear that it's more expensive, but when you're, operating off of a project that was budgeted 7 years ago, with all of everything that happened to get this project from that point to this point, it is what it is. So now we, figure out how to best move forward and get this thing done. I just don't know that we have any other choice.
Okay, thank you. Good. I appreciate everybody's comments. They've all been well presented, and you've asked some questions and made some points that obviously we need to do some work on. And to David's point, I thought we're where we are to a certain extent. We've involved the public in the decision. We were responsive to their comments about the Flythe property in Seven Gables, and so we had to spend some more money, but that property value is tied up. So hopefully, I need to talk to you.
I cannot hear.
Mr. Mayor, you cut out.
Go ahead.
We can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
You cut out for a period of time. You froze. And then when you came clear again, we could not hear you. So we didn't hear most of what you just said.
Well, it probably wasn't worth hearing anyhow, so.
If I may, can I?
Now?
Yes.
Okay, and I don't know what happened. I wanted to make David feel good that he's not the only one that had problems. I perhaps was too far away. I thought the comments were good. And Fletcher, I would like to talk to you about your ideas for value of the properties. And I think that becomes two clear messages I think I heard is, one, let's figure out how to take care of the funding, the budget issue. And two, clearly we have to look at the properties on Martintown Road, get a plan, timing, one, to increase the value, when are we going to put them on the market, and that process. And I think, so that's the two things I heard is proceed on the station that course we were on, and get those properties sold, because that's a key component of where the money will come from. So at least that's what I came out, I think, is, as Rachel, something we need to let's get busy on.
Okay, we can absolutely do that. And so just so that you all know, we will proceed with the schematic design. Once we've got something ready to go, again, we'll bring it to you to review. It's a two-part process. We'll do the interior first, so the layout of the rooms, etc., similar to what we're doing on the public safety headquarters right now. And once the interior is complete, we'll work on the exterior. We will put the project out for bid once we're comfortable with the layout, the design, you name it. The bids will come in, and once we have our low bid and determine the winner, once again, we'll take a look at where we stand financially, and it's at that point that we'll bring the resolution to council to reprioritize any CPST funding, or if for any other reason we're able to identify any other funding, it would be at that time too. So just so everybody knows, that's the process. We don't want to go down the road of reallocating now when we may not need all of the money that's reallocated. So this allows us to just keep our finger on the pulse of the project a little bit more. I want to assure you.
Can I interrupt you just a second? And I think the point is, as you described the process, certainly there would be citizen involvement and opportunity to comment on the plans and the layout and the specifics as we go along. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your train of thought.
That's okay. I do also want to address the comment in terms of how did we get here. I want everyone to know, and I'm pretty sure we shared with you before, Chief, myself, Mark Costner, the whole project team, we have looked and squeezed and edited that layout to the extent possible to try to remove square footage, unnecessary square footage. We've removed a mezzanine in the bays, a stairwell, pretty much everything we possibly could to be efficient. We've made some safety changes with regards to laundry, so that our firefighters aren't washing their regular laundry with any contaminated uniforms or anything. So we have done everything we possibly can to reduce the square footage so that once we know the price per square foot, we're building the most efficient and affordable building for us. And I have made suggestions to Chief, and he's just like laughed in my face. So I assure you, we have looked at this from every angle to make the best decision for the size and the layout of the building so that we can have the most economical yet the best building that we can for our employees. So I want to assure you of that. So to then address your comment, Mr. Mayor, I'm excited that in the next couple days, we will make live a new webpage on our website that's going to be dedicated strictly to this particular project. We've not named the webpage yet, but it's going to be on our public safety department page. And it's going to be designed 100% for updates, information, you name it, for the fire station. And we will post updates periodically, big updates, small updates. We will have the live construction cam feed off of that page. So at any time, someone can check out what's going on the site 24 hours a day. We'll share the public documents that come through that you all view in council meetings and that get approved, so anyone can access at any point. We'll have a mechanism from that page for people to sign up to get email updates. So anytime that web page is updated, we will then send an email to anyone who signed up. All we're asking for is first name, last name, and email address, just so that we know who we're contacting. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm leaving off of that, but all of that is so that at any point, anyone can go to that website, check out what's going on with the construction, download documents that have been public, discussed here, approved, sign up to join the email list. It's an email list that you don't have to be on from the beginning. You can join at any point and start getting updates from then on. So whether it's a resident, a person at the media, or just an interested party in the CSRA. So we're trying to do everything that we possibly can to be transparent and engage folks, because this really is an exciting project and it is a community building, and we want everyone to feel part of it. We just need Chief and his folks to do a final sign off on the page, and we'll announce on social media and a media post on our website what the specific URL is going to be. We'll make it easy to find.
That's exciting. Great. We had taken advantage of the opportunity to use our resources and get an opportunity for people to see what's happening. Great.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to bring this up tonight, but it's maybe sometime in the near future, Rachel, if y'all could just update us on the public safety headquarters. But not tonight. I know everybody's tired tonight, but just let us know sometimes.
Absolutely. The very short version, we're making good progress, and we will prepare a good update for you in the future.
Okay, thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other comments? Eric?
Yeah, I know Rick is already off, but I wanted to thank him and Rachel and the rest of the staff that made it possible for the banners for the graduates. You know, I'm excited that, and I'm sure Kevin is too, that, you know, we've got some kids graduating Thursday. So it was really great of, you know, having some private donors come to do some of that. And, you know, Rick and his staff, you know, put that up. So just wanted to give credit to them and Rachel. Thank y'all so much for that. That means a lot to those kids.
You're welcome. The banner in Wade Hampton Park is pretty cool. It's a great selfie location. You can find yourself in the picture or in the big banner and take a picture with it. So we hope people enjoy.
Unfortunately, Katie missed that day.
Okay, Kevin, go ahead.
This is more of a comment than anything else, just while we've got Chief as a captive audience. But I've had several people just comment that they've noticed a significant increase in people running stop signs. Don't know what that's about, but told I'd pass that along to the chief, so I'm doing so. I think specifically kind of in the Martintown Road higher traffic areas. So just passing that feedback along.
Sure, Kevin, we'll certainly take a look at it. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Mr. Brooks?
Yes, sir. Is there any update on the traffic light for Bergen Road and Martintown Road? I know scheduled for July. Is that still a July project? Or do you know?
Rachel on that.
We've received the plans from DOT. I'll have to double check that it's still on track for July. I can check with Tom and we can get back to you, to all of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief, did you want to add something?
Other than to thank you all, I know how important this is to public safety, not only the public, the community of Augusta. I appreciate your support. This is something that's been on my mind and on my mind for some time. I think it's the right thing to do. Let's go ahead and get this station built. We definitely need it. And I've said all along, you know, I'm charged with the lives and the property of the city, and I want to make sure that we make sure that our people, our citizens, are protected, and that's what it's all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Good words. Anyone else have a last thought before we adjourn? Okay, seeing none. Two things. Appreciate your contributions as always. Secondly, if you have any thoughts on the community of North Augusta and where we fit into the environment of today's events, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about them and most certainly listen to you. It's been something I've been thinking about for days. And we had a little brief meeting this morning, or a lengthy meeting this afternoon with some of the pastors in the area and some civic leaders, and it was again eye-opening. And I expect that you'll hear more in the future. But please recognize our country's in an unusual, uncharted time, and if we just pray and work together to overcome fear of any group of people for their well-being, and become an active community in terms of positive things that we can do for people. We need that dialogue, and I would appreciate a discussion with you at any time on that, and any ideas you have. So I would just say, Chief, again, make sure your people are safe as best you can. They never know when the next call is going to be and what it's going to be, and we pray for them every night. And appreciate your leadership and your interaction with the other local officials to keep this city safe as well. Our people, as you just said, protecting people and their property is what you're about, and it's what this group of people here assembled is most concerned about as well. I can assure you and the citizens of that. So we appreciate it. And I'm going to close on that note. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, and this meeting is adjourned.